In the summer of '79, a high school party on the Fort Peck Indian Reservation ended in blood, and a 17-year-old boy became one of Montana's most infamous teen killers. Barry Allen Beach was an average teenager from Poplar, Montana, until the night of June 15th, 1979. That evening, Beach's classmate Kimberly Nees, also 17, was brutally bludgeoned to death and dumped near the Poplar River. Investigators zeroed in on Beach when he confessed to beating Kimberly with a wrench and tire iron after she rebuffed his advances. The chilling nature of the crime, a teenage boy savagely killing a peer, shocked the small community. Beach was tried as an adult and in 1984 received 100 years in prison without parole, a stark sentence reflecting the brutality of the murder. For decades, Beach maintained his confession was coerced and fought for freedom. His case gained national attention as an example in debates over harsh punishments for juvenile offenders. In 2015, after Beach had spent over 30 years behind bars, Montana's governor granted him clemency, citing his good behavior and minimal risk to public safety. Beach, once a 17-year-old murderer, walked out of prison a free man.
And I think that's how it changes. That maturity process becomes an internal instead of an external.
Barry, do you go back to your old job, your old house? You know, you're going to pick up where you left off when you were sent back here?
Thanks to some supporters who wish to remain unknown, my house, I've never had to pack my house up. All my property sits in my house right now, the way I left it that morning. So I will go back to my house, my job, my business, whatever, I'm allowed to pick up where I left off and hope that the healing process this time is a lot quicker than the last 18 months.
Anything you want to say to the governor?
I want to tell the governor thank you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you standing by your word like I stood by mine. I said that I would turn myself in if things went wrong, and I did. He said he wanted me released. He did. And I appreciate him for that. I thank him for that. And I will be praying for him still.
You have a lot of supporters in Great.
But the memory of Kimberly's violent death and the question of Beach's true guilt continue to haunt Montana's collective memory. Number 2, Stephen Keefe, October 1985, Great Falls, Montana. A quiet farmhouse becomes a house of horrors when a teenager breaks in at night. By dawn, 3 members of a respected family are dead, and a 17-year-old will soon be called a monster in the press. Stephen Wayne Keefe was just shy of his 18th birthday when he decided to burglarize the rural home of Dr. David and Constance McKay near Great Falls. Armed and desperate, Keefe's burglary plan turned into a bloodbath on October 15th, 1985. When the McKay family unexpectedly returned home that night, Keefe ambushed them. He shot dead 71-year-old David McKay, his wife Constance, 70, and their adult daughter, 40-year-old Marion McKay Kwamar, who had a toddler sleeping in the house, mercifully left unharmed. The brutality of the crime, an entire family slain by a teenager, sent waves of fear through Montana. Keefe was swiftly caught and tried as an adult. In court, his troubled upbringing and impulsive youth were weighed against the cold-blooded nature of his acts. The judge deemed the crime evidence of irreparable corruption, not mere youthful immaturity. Keefe received 3 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 50 extra years for related charges. Decades later, Keefe, now a graying inmate, sought a reduced sentence citing his rehabilitation. But courts refused leniency. To this day, Keefe remains behind bars, a stark symbol that Montana's justice system reserves its harshest punishment for even teenage killers when their crimes are truly egregious. Number 3 and 4, Lester and Vernon kills on top. On a chilly October night in 1987, a young man accepted a ride from a group of strangers outside a Montana bar. It was a ride to hell. The next day, his battered body was found across state lines, and 2 teenage brothers would be named the culprits of a crime so cruel it put them on death row. Lester Kills on top, 17, and his older brother Vernon cruised into a Miles City bar after midnight on October 17, 1987. There, they crossed paths with 23-year-old Marty Eshamendi, a local who needed help finding his parked car after an evening out. Pretending to lend a hand, the Kills on Top brothers, joined by 2 young women, offered Marty a ride, but they had sinister motives. Once Marty was in their car, the brothers revealed their true intent: robbery and violence. They beat and choked Marty, stealing his wallet, credit cards, and paycheck. In a horrifying ordeal spanning hours, Marty was bound, beaten with a tire iron and rocks, and even forced to strip naked in a twisted display of dominance. The group drove Marty across the border into Wyoming. There, in a desolate spot, Lester Kills on Top decided their victim had to die. He attempted to shoot Marty with a makeshift weapon and, when that failed, slit Marty's throat with a knife, ending the young father's life in gruesome fashion. Marty's body was dumped in an abandoned building in Gillette, Wyoming, where it was discovered soon after. The murder sent shockwaves through Montana and Wyoming. Lester and Vernon Kills on Top were swiftly arrested within days. In 1988, both brothers were convicted of deliberate homicide, kidnapping, and robbery. Originally, they received the death penalty, a rarity for teen offenders, reflecting the heinousness of their crime. However, years later, Lester's death sentence was overturned. Executing juveniles was eventually ruled unconstitutional, and both brothers' sentences were commuted to life in prison without parole. Vernon continued to appeal his convictions for decades, but died in prison in 2020. Lester, now middle-aged, remains behind bars in Deer Lodge. The name Kills on Top still invokes dread in Montana. A reminder of a night when a teenager's capacity for evil was on full display in the Treasure State. Number 5, Justine Winter. She was a high school honor student from a nice Montana town, but heartbreak and teenage angst led her down a dark road. One March night, a 16-year-old girl's despair turned into a lethal weapon, and an innocent family paid the ultimate price. Justine Winter of Evergreen, Montana, appeared to be a typical 16-year-old in 2009. But on March 19th of that year, reeling from an emotional breakup with her boyfriend, Justine made a fateful choice. Shortly after 8 p.m., she drove her car head-on into oncoming traffic on US Highway 93 in a deliberate attempt to end her own life. In that moment, Winter turned her vehicle into a tool of murder. She smashed into another car carrying Erin Thompson, 35, who was 4 months pregnant, and Erin's 13-year-old son, Caden Odell. The collision was catastrophic. Both Erin and her unborn baby and young Caden were killed on impact, while Justine miraculously survived the wreck. Investigators later uncovered chilling text messages Justine sent just minutes before the crash, saying cryptic goodbyes and declaring, "I'm going to wreck my car," in a storm of teenage despair. What some saw as a tragic suicide attempt gone wrong, Flathead County prosecutors saw as deliberate homicide. They charged Winter, only 16 at the time, as an adult on 2 counts of murder for intentionally causing the crash. At her 2011 trial, the community was split. Could a heartbroken teen truly form murderous intent? A jury decided yes, finding her guilty on both counts.
After over 5 hours of deliberation, there was a verdict in the case of Justine Winter.
To the charge of deliberate homicide for the death of Erin Thompson, guilty. To the charge of deliberate homicide for the death of Caden Odell, guilty. Dated this 3rd day of February 2011.
Ms. Winter, having been convicted of 2 counts of deliberate homicide, you're remanded to the custody of the Flathead County Sheriff.
After Winter was taken into custody, both families consoled each other.
Our hearts go out to them and Justine. And this has been just hard for all of our families.
Flathead County Attorney Ed Corrigan.
I feel for Justine's family. I feel for her. She was 16 years old at the time that this happened, and that's just a bad thing all the way around. But there's some justice for the Thompson family, for the families of Aaron and Caden, and I'm very grateful to the jury. And
I'm glad it's over. I think it'll be good for all of us to move on, and I think there's consequences for everything, and it's sad.
Justine, often stone-faced in court, never took the stand to apologise. The judge imposed 2 concurrent 30-year prison terms, with half of each suspended, for the 2 lives she took. Even after sentencing, the case took an odd twist. Justine had filed a controversial lawsuit blaming her victims for the crash, further enraging the public. Ultimately, Winter served only a fraction of her sentence. In 2015, at age 22, she was granted parole after completing a treatment program, walking free much earlier than anyone expected. The families of Erin and Caden, though shocked by her early release, expressed hope that Justine had learned the value of life. To this day, the Winter case stands as one of Montana's most haunting reminders of how teenage turmoil can explode into real-world tragedy, leaving scars on a community that will never forget that deadly night on Highway 93. Number 6, Sebastian Olivares. Summer 2009, Helena, Montana. 3 friends went to a popular hangout spot, not knowing one of them had murder on his mind. Before anyone could react, a teenage gunman opened fire on his own buddies, an act of betrayal and bloodshed that none saw coming. Sebastian Olivares Costa was 17 years old on June 3, 2009, an age of prom nights and plans for summer. But on that June evening, Sebastian brought a gun to an impromptu gathering with friends at a Helena Elementary School yard. In a burst of unexplained violence, he opened fire on 3 fellow teenagers. 16-year-old Corey Andasowski was shot dead, and 2 other boys, aged 15 and 17, were gravely wounded by Sebastian's sudden attack. The night air filled with screams and sirens as one boy bled on the grass and others ran for their lives.
911, what is your emergency?
My wife just saw a guy get shot up by the Hale Reservoir.
Okay, do you know what happened? Okay.
I heard a bunch of shots, and I thought it might just be firecrackers, and I kept walking towards the reservoir, and I saw one man go down, roll over, and he's still like he was dead.
Okay.
And then I saw another man. I heard another shot, and this one man started falling over. This man was running down the hill towards him with a gun. He said, "Just leave me alone, leave me alone." And this man shot him point blank twice more.
Okay, hold on, let me tell my officers. Okay.
Boxer will meet you there, or
911, what is your emergency?
Oh my God, me and my friends, this kid pulled a gun on us and then pistol whipped us in the head.
units responding. The male with a gun is last seen by Hale Reservoir. The caller left the area, unknown if he's left the area or direction from there. Only description is young male, no further.
This is Joe, left on the bike, great order, that's all we have.
Helena police arriving on scene found chaos and a teen suspect who seemed as stunned as anyone by what he'd done. The motive? To this day, no clear motive has ever been revealed. Olivares Costa never publicly explained why he turned on his friends. Some speculated about a personal dispute or mental health issues, but nothing concrete emerged. The community was left grasping at straws. How could a well-liked kid from a good family attempt a triple killing? Charged as an adult, Sebastian eventually pleaded guilty to deliberate homicide and attempted homicides. The judge showed no mercy. This teenage offender received 3 life sentences, 1 for the murder and 1 each for the 2 attempted murders. His lawyers appealed, arguing that condemning a 17-year-old to die in prison was cruel, an unusual punishment. But Montana's Attorney General countered that the severity of the crime warranted the harsh sentence. The court agreed. Sebastian Olivares Costa remains behind bars, likely for the rest of his life. His case, largely overshadowed outside Montana, nonetheless endures as a grim local legend. The Helena teen who killed his friend for reasons known only to himself, leaving 2 other youths scarred and a community forever changed by a senseless act. Number 7. Sidney Cruz, DeCrane Jr. Halloween, season 2022 in Billings brought a real-life nightmare. A college athlete far from home crossed paths with 2 masked teenagers looking for revenge after a trivial party squabble. What happened next was a predatory ambush that turned an ordinary street into a killing ground. Sidney Cruz DeCrane Jr., age 16, had already built a dangerous reputation on the streets of Billings. On October 28, 2022, DeCrane and a 17-year-old accomplice, Garrett Jarvis Dorr, were kicked out of a college house party for causing trouble. Humiliated and angry, the 2 teens didn't go far. Instead, they armed themselves, donned ski masks, and lurked in the shadows waiting for a target. Fate delivered one: Chandler Stalcup, an 18-year-old freshman football player from Florida attending Rocky Mountain College. Chandler and friends had just arrived by car to pick someone up from the same party. Without warning, DeCrane sprang from the darkness and opened fire, first shooting into the air to sow panic, then chasing the fleeing car down residential streets. In a calculated move, DeCrane aimed and fired a shot directly into Chandler's vehicle, the bullet piercing the windshield and striking the young athlete in the head. Chandler died almost instantly, his promising life cut short by a teen he'd never even met. The randomness and ruthlessness of the murder shocked Billings. DeCrane and Dorr were soon arrested, and details of their planning emerged. A judge described DeCrane's actions as deliberate, premeditated, and predatory, noting how the 16-year-old stalked and executed a complete stranger for no reason other than a bruised ego. Both teens were charged as adults with deliberate homicide, DeCrane as the triggerman and Dorr for driving the getaway car. As of 2024, DeCrane awaits trial in the Yellowstone County Detention Facility on a $1.5 million bond, facing the likelihood of life in prison if convicted. The senseless murder of Chandler Stalcup, an innocent student in the wrong place at the wrong time, remains a painful memory for Montana's largest city. And it underscores a chilling truth. Even a 16-year-old killer can exhibit the cold cunning of a seasoned criminal, turning a quiet neighborhood street into the scene of an assassination. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there, and remember, sometimes truth is more frightening than fiction.